Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of the Mystic Space podcast. My name is Elise, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking all about the power of meditation. This is one of my most commonly asked questions that I get on my social media platform is how do I meditate? I struggle meditating. How do you meditate? What can I do to meditate? So many questions, and this is why I'm really passionate about covering this topic because I want to help people be able to meditate in whatever form works for them. So, meditation is amazing. It can help with so many things in your life, with your own self, with external of you. It can help with anxiety, with stress, with depression, with your self esteem, with just honestly building yourself a better life and a more aligned life. So, let's get into what is meditation because a lot of people think that meditation is just sitting down in like the lotus position with your hands up in a mudra and, trying to clear out all your thoughts, trying to block out everything and think of nothing. And I honestly think this is why a lot of people struggle to meditate because it can be really hard to do that form of meditation, like a sit down meditation, especially if you're new to this. If this is like the first time that you're meditating, you might really struggle to sit down and meditate for half an hour straight. So, my biggest advice always, especially if you're going to try the sit down meditation, is always start small and work yourself up as well. And if you have like other things that, might impact you, say you might have ADHD or something like that, where, you might struggle to sit down and just, do one thing and focus on one thing for a long period of time. It's going to be something that you're just going to have to practice and you will get better with over time. And obviously, for some people, it's going to be harder than others. And that's why I say that that is not the only form of meditation that you can do. There are so many forms of meditation. So if you're struggling with one form, especially if just like the sit down, trying to think of nothing kind of vibe, then try doing different forms of meditation. Now, before I talk about the different forms of meditation, I want to say that the whole point of meditation, and I just want to remind you, is not to sit down and think of nothing. It's not to try to clear your mind completely and have zero thoughts because quite frankly, that's actually impossible. Okay. We have a brain that literally just continuously operates, and there's like so many thoughts that you're always going to keep focusing on or thinking about. I like to think of our thoughts as little clouds like above our head almost, and they just come and go, right? So you might have a thought, oh my God, I have to do this later, and that goes. And then you have another thought, oh my God, I need to do this, or oh wow, look at this. Like I just like to imagine thoughts as little clouds passing you by. So, meditation is mostly about being aware of these thoughts. So, sitting down or whatever else you're doing, whatever form of meditation it is, and just being aware of the thoughts. So, you might start thinking about, oh my God, I need to do this tomorrow. And then you're thinking about tomorrow and whatever. And then it's about reminding yourself that you're having those thoughts and then bringing yourself back into the present moment. So, meditating is more about getting into a meditative state rather than just trying to think of nothing. Now, meditative state is going to look and feel different for everyone. So, you're going to have to try to figure out what works for you to get you into that state of being. And that state of being, for me personally, just basically means being in the present moment, being aware, being conscious. That's why I say it's about being aware of your thoughts. It's not about not thinking about any thoughts, it's about being aware of the thought that is coming across and the fact that you are focusing on that thought. And when you focus on that thought, like we all do, because we're humans and we have a brain, when we become aware that we are thinking about that, we can bring ourselves back into this present moment and go, okay, yep, cool. That's a cool thought. But right now, I'm sitting down here. Right now, I'm just focusing on my breath. And that's why a lot of people like to do things like focusing on your breath when you are meditating, because it is something to bring you back to. It's like a focal point. If you want to just come back to the present moment, you totally can. But for a lot of people, it is very helpful to try to focus on your breath. So it can be simple. You can do a specific type of breathing if you want, but it can just be as simple as breathing in and out, as like not slowly as you can, but for a few seconds count each. So you just relaxing your body, relaxing your mind, relaxing your breath, and everything like that. And then that way, when you wander off into all those thoughts, all those clouds, you can bring yourself back to that thing. Now, it's going to get easier the more you do this. That's why I like to say that anything like this, when you're meditating or when you're trying to change yourself or when you're going through any sort of this type of journey, it's going to be more like, imagine when you go to the gym, right? You can't just go to the gym and pick up 400 kilos straight away. I mean, maybe some people in this world can, but for the most part, you can't, right? So it's like a muscle that you have to train. You have to keep going to the gym, you have to keep being consistent, and you have to keep strengthening those muscles. And that's how I like to see meditation. That's how I like to see a lot of, self-love practices and everything like that. When you're trying to work on your self-esteem or anything like that, you're not going to just look in the mirror and think I am beautiful just because you've said it once. It's something that you continuously do, you continuously practice, and the more you do it, the more it becomes easier for you to do. The more it becomes second nature for you to do. And the more that, if you're working with your thoughts as an example, the more those thoughts are going to be programmed into your mind, and they're going to be your automatic thoughts instead of thoughts that you have to try to almost force. So, with the forms of meditation, of course, there's the one that probably most people know of or think of when they hear meditation, and that can be to sit down, close your eyes, and either focus on your breathing and try to clear your mind, right? Now, of course, that's wonderful. If that works for you, please keep doing it. That's amazing. I love that form of meditation. But also remember that you don't have to make it that formal. You can lay down if you want. You can put a blanket over you if you want. You can sit in a chair if you want. You can, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable in that moment. It doesn't have to be sitting down in a specific position to meditate. So, other forms of meditating can be dancing. You can literally just put on your music and just be present, be in your body, feel in your body. As long as you are being present, that's all that really matters. Walking is another great form of meditation if you choose it to be. Again, like walking could be just walking to you. Or if you wanted to make it a mindful practice, you could. So I like to do this. I do this pretty much most mornings. I go for a walk. And I used to take like music and headphones and, listen to podcasts or something. But now I don't. I just completely in the present moment, and I just look around and I focus on the trees and I listen to the birds sing or whatever it is, right? You're just being present. And you can do so many different types of forms of walking meditation. You could do it for like a certain time. You could try to focus every single time you put your feet on the ground. You could count. You could try to sync your breath with your movement. There's just so many things to do. Again, it's not about overwhelming yourself with what to do. It's just about what feels good for you. So if you want to just go for a walk with nothing in your head playing and you just want to walk around and you just want to be, then do that. Another form of meditation is sky gazing, like literally just doing nothing but staring up at the clouds or the stars, or it could be your ceiling, honestly. It really doesn't matter. There's no real rules. It's more just about you taking your focus away. Like, when you get so into something that you're kind of so in that present moment, you kind of almost forget what you're doing. That's kind of the aim that you need to do. So if you're focusing on the clouds and you're creating shapes in your mind or whatever it is, and you just get lost in that, that's meditating. Another form of meditation is using something physical, such as like beads. This is not personally part of my practice, but I do know it is a part of a lot of practices out there, such as in Hinduism and Buddhism, where they will, you might have heard some like rosary beads. I think Christians might do this as well. I'm not too sure. I don't know. But basically, like the rosary beads where you have like people have like a really long necklace with like certain beads on it. Well, you can get something like that and you touch each individual bead, and you can either say like a mantra or just be thinking, or you can just count or whatever it is. You can say a chant, like obviously depending on the culture there's a lot of different things, which I highly recommend like looking into if that's something that you're interested in. And you basically just work down that necklace, obviously not while it's around your neck, while it's in your hands, and you put each bead in your fingers and you either say something or whatever it is, and you work through that necklace. And sometimes you might do it only once, or sometimes you do it a couple of times, just depends on the practice, Just depends on where it came from in the culture, things like that. So I highly recommend researching into that if that's something that you're interested in. I personally don't do that as a form of meditation, but I do know of it and I think it's a beautiful idea. Another form of meditation that I like is playing an instrument. So I literally have like a sound drum and I just play it. I get into the tunes, I get into the present moment, I forget about the world, and I'm just sitting there loving my life. Could be a sound drum, could be a guitar, could be a piano. If you like to play instruments, whether you're good at it or not, honestly, that's not the point. It's just about being present. Like I said, it's just being in that flow state. It could be art if you like to create, whether you like to sew or whether you like to paint physically or just draw or color in or whatever it is. Like whatever gets you in that flow, whatever gets you in that just present moment where you're just there. You're not sitting there off into the fairies, you're not thinking about something else, you're just there in that present moment. So, what are some things that you can do that will help you meditate or that will help you get into that meditative state? So, my first piece of advice will be learn what works for you and what makes you feel good, what you actually enjoy doing. Like, if you are trying to sit yourself down and force yourself to meditate in a lotus position for 1 hour every single day, but you do not enjoy it and it does not bring you joy, it does not make you feel good because you're trying so hard to tick it off a list. Like, you're trying to be like, oh, okay, this is what I have to do to be spiritual, or this is what I have to do to help myself. So I have to sit down and meditate for an hour. That's not going to help you. I highly recommend figuring out what works for you, what makes you feel good, and understanding that you are going to go through flows. Okay, especially if you're a woman, because we have 4 different phases in our cycle. We're completely different. And even if you're not a woman, it doesn't matter because you're just going to feel different on certain days. So if you don't feel like sitting down and closing your eyes and meditating for an hour, do a different form of meditation. It doesn't have to be the same thing every single day. Just because you found that one way works for you, that's great, but that doesn't mean you have to do it every single day. One day you might sit down and meditate for an hour, and then the next day you might put on some good tunes and dance for 15 minutes. There's no rules. But I think it's about understanding you and your body and what makes you feel good. Some days I don't feel like sitting here and meditating. Sometimes I just chant instead. Sometimes I put music on and dance. Sometimes I just stare up into the clouds when I'm drinking my lemon water. And for me personally, I don't always feel like sitting down and closing my eyes for a long period of time. I just cannot do it. I'm not in that mindset to do it. So it's so much more beneficial to me to do something else that gets me in that meditative state or that flow state that actually makes me feel good. So I'll put on some tunes and I'll dance or something like that. Just reminding yourself that you don't have to be super strict and you don't have to do the same thing every day. And you don't even have to meditate every day if it doesn't feel good for you. Just do what feels good for you because that's the whole point of meditation. That's what's going to help you get into that meditative and flow state rather than you trying to force yourself to do it because it's something that you think you should do or something that you have to do. Another great thing that can help you meditate is plant medicine and psychedelics, such as cannabis or shrooms, whether you want to microdose or whether you want to take a trip. And I do have a whole episode about plant medicine and psychedelics. And I just want to remind everybody I'm not encouraging you all to go do that if that's not what you're feeling called to. Of course, please always use your discernment, seek medical professional help because, plant medicine is not something that you should just like fuck around and find out with, but they can really help because a lot of them help you be in that present moment. So for me personally, I have fantastic meditations after I've smoked cannabis. And I've had an amazing meditation when I was on shrooms as well. So it's really just a tool that can help you come into that present moment a lot easier so that you can get into that meditative state or that flow state a lot easier. And again, everyone's different. It might not do that for you, but that's just what I found has helped me a lot. Breath work before you meditate is also fucking amazing. I absolutely love breath work. Like, if you really struggle with meditating and like sitting down and meditate, I highly recommend you trying breath work instead. And then if you do the breath work, trying and sitting down and meditating after that, or laying down, whatever, you know what I mean. It doesn't have to be sitting down, but doing the breath work and then meditating after, because I feel like the breath work really pushes you into that present moment and it makes it a lot easier to meditate after, because again, it's kind of like emptied out all those thoughts. So all those clouds above your head, when you do breath work, they kind of go because you're so focused on the present moment. You don't have a choice. You can't sit there and think about, all these things and all these clouds above your head when you're doing breath work, especially when you're doing a bit more of an intense breath work, because you're just in that present moment. It kind of goes into like ice baths. I'm sure you guys might have heard of ice baths. If you guys haven't, then Wim Hof talks about it a lot and how it can help you, because putting yourself in an ice bath, right? It clears your mind because all you can do is think about that right then and there, right? You're not sitting there thinking about, oh my God, I have a job interview tomorrow. Oh my God, I have this tomorrow. Oh my God, my work is this, whatever. You're just in that ice bath. Your mind is not going anywhere else besides there. And doing things like that kind of almost like shock you to be in the present moment really can help you stay in that present moment and help your mind stay in that present moment. I also like journaling for meditation, not necessarily journaling with words, actually. I have a scribble journal that I like to call, and I basically just scribble in it. So it's literally what it's called. I just scribble in it. I don't write words. I don't do anything. Sometimes that's really good for certain emotions like anger. I love scribbling in there when I'm angry, because you're not really focusing on what you're writing and it has to sound good or anything like that. You just scribble, as your words are like flowing through in your mind, you're kind of just word vomiting them almost on a paper, but you're not focusing so much on exactly the words. Most of the time I can't even keep up with my head. So I'm just scribbling, 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 and I'm just kind of letting all these thoughts just flow out of me. Something else I recommend as well is reducing your distractions. So if you meditate in a room with your window open, maybe close your window, close your blind, make it dark. If you get distracted really easily, take that phone out of the room. Use, an iPad or a laptop or something else, or connect your phone to a Bluetooth speaker if you're using something like music, but just keep your phone out of that room so that you can really feel like, okay, this, even if it's just 5 minutes, right? This 5 minutes is for me. And I'm going to put all the distractions outside of this room and I'm going to sit here, or I'm going to lay here, or I'm going to dance, or I'm going to do whatever it is. And I'm going to be here and that's it. And I'm not going to get distracted with anything else. Obviously, the more you meditate, the easier it will be for you to get into that meditative state, and the more you won't have to worry about distractions. Like a lot of people can meditate when they're outside. I know some people can even meditate when they're in a plane. Like, obviously, the more you practice meditating, the more you're going to be able to do it with more distractions. But when you're first learning, sometimes that can be really hard. So, limiting your distractions makes it so much easier, because then you can just focus on the present moment or your breath or whatever it is. And something else that I love that helps me meditate a lot, I personally don't meditate in silence. I love music. I love relaxing music. I personally really love frequency music. So if you look into, I'm not going to get into it too much into this episode, but basically the music that you hear is tuned to a certain frequency. But we can listen to an array of frequencies. So there are a lot of different frequencies out there that can help with different things if you look into them all. And you can just literally look these up on YouTube. Just type in 444 hertz if that's what you want, whatever, or you could type in music for stress with hertz music and it will come up with a certain type of frequency that would be good for that. And there's so many. There's some for abundance, there's some for stress, there's some for certain centers in our body. There's an array of music and hertz and frequencies out there that you could listen to, whatever it is that makes you feel good. If you like listening to a rainforest, listen to a rainforest. If you like listening to the birds chirping, find something like that. Whatever it is that just you enjoy listening to, whatever it is that can just be a background music that you're not fully focusing on. So I highly recommend trying not to, get music that has words and things like that you would be focusing so much on the music. You kind of want it to be more of like a background thing that you're not really focusing on. There's also binaural beats or binaural beats. I don't know. I don't actually know how to pronounce that, but there's so many on YouTube that you can listen to. Some of them can be a little bit more intense, so find something that works for you. I mostly listen to that when I have like pain specifically, so I just type in like migraine binaural beats or something like that on YouTube and meditate with that on. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of music or whatever it is on YouTube, even for free, that you could look into and listen to at the same time. If that helps you, for some people, it probably might help to meditate completely in silence. But for me personally, I love having like music on as a background. So, I want to talk about how meditation can help you overall, because a lot of people think that meditating is just about that present moment when you're meditating and how it can be good for you then. But it's actually more about outside of you meditating that the power of meditation comes in. So while you're meditating, it helps you come into that present moment more. And the more you practice that, it helps you be in the present more outside of that. So during your day, during your time outside of the time that you're meditating. Because again, like I said before, it's a muscle that you keep training. So the more you practice to meditate and the more you get better, I guess, quote unquote, better at going into the present moment or going into that flow state, the more you're going to be able to carry that energy or that mentality or that power with you throughout your day and throughout your life, not just while you're meditating, such as quieting your mind. While you're meditating, yes, it helps you quiet your mind, but it also helps you quiet your mind outside of you meditating. It helps you, filter through all that clutter and all that junk so that, outside of your meditation, you can be more focused and choose what you want to focus on. Because I'm going to tell you right now that there is absolutely no point of you meditating every day for 1 hour for 2 years if the second you get out of your meditation, you get easily angry or you're easily triggered or whatever it is. That's a big sign that meditating is not helping you, or maybe that form of meditation is not helping you, or maybe you're just not integrating what you're learning during your meditation throughout your life. Because, yes, the meditation is amazing, it's important, it's great in that moment. But again, it's about bringing what you're learning through into your life. So you don't always need to be sitting down and meditating to calm down or to quiet your mind or whatever it is. You can do that outside of your meditation. It helps you be in control of your thoughts a lot more. So I know we can't really control our thoughts, right? Like I said, we can't control the clouds that pass us by, and those are all thoughts. But we can choose which cloud or which thought we want to focus on. So, as we meditate, we become more aware of the thoughts that we are focusing on, and we can learn to let them go and focus on thoughts that we choose to focus on. And again, the more you practice that, the more you'll be able to do that outside of your meditation as well. This is something that has helped me personally with moving through anxiety and depression because, yes, it would help me while I was meditating. But then, after, if I got an anxious thought, as an example, because I've practiced so much and because of my mindfulness, if I get an anxious thought, I am now able to be aware of that and choose not to focus on it and choose to do something else, choose to focus my energy on something else, or choose to do something that will help me move through that anxiety feeling because I'm now present and conscious and aware that I'm having anxiety. And I get that little bit of a moment because that's what meditation can do to you. It can slow you down enough that you bring yourself into that present moment, that you can slow down and just take a second so that when you have anxiety coming into you, you can slow down for a moment, be aware of it, and then be completely present with it. And you will know what will help you move through that anxiety. You know what will help you so that you can focus on what it is that you want to focus on rather than the anxiety. So it helps you practice what thoughts you want to focus on. It helps you practice being in control of yourself and of your mind and of your thoughts. Meditation also sets up your day. So if you meditate first thing in the morning, if you have a certain intention or if you're thinking about a certain thing, then that can really set your mood for the rest of the day. Now, obviously, shit's going to happen throughout the day that might throw you off or, might make it a bit harder. But the more you kind of get grounded, especially first thing in the morning, and you set that mood, that's why I love not going on my phone first thing in the morning, because you need that time to yourself. You need that time just for your own mind and thoughts. Because the second you pick up your phone, you're already reading messages and you're scrolling and you're reading emails and you're starting to get stressed about this and that and starting to think about this and that. And it doesn't give you that moment, that space with just yourself. So that's why I love meditating first thing in the morning, because it sets that mood for the day. So even if you have something stressful on later, say you have a job interview or say you have to, I don't know, you have to do something that's going to stress you out later. Setting your mood first thing in the morning can help you deal with that stress later in the day. You might be able to give yourself a bit of a pep talk where you go, okay, cool, it's all right. This day might be really stressful, but it's okay. I can just focus on myself. I can come back to my breath, whatever it is that's going to help you. It's kind of like talking to yourself first thing in the morning and being like your best friend and just telling yourself, this is how you're going to be today, okay? This is how we are going to be. This is how I want to seize my day. This is how I want to bring this attitude into this thing that I have to do later. And this is how it helps to align yourself with what it is that you truly want, whether that's your goals that you have or whether that's something that you're trying to work on or overcome within yourself. Say if it's anxiety, this is where it can help you because you are focusing on what it is that you're trying to do. It can help you have a more clear mind for, your goals that you're focusing on, or if you're trying to help yourself with self-esteem or anxiety or whatever it is, it gives you that space. It gives you that moment where you remember that you're actually fucking in control. Because a lot of the times we forget we're in control. We forget that we actually have power, right? We just think we're a meat suit and we have all these racing thoughts and we're just like a slave to our mind, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what meditation can bring you. It can bring you that space to remind yourself of your fucking power. So let's just say you're easily angry, you get angry easily, because this is something that I struggled with. Meditation helps with that because you give yourself that space to think about what it is that you want, right? So you're sitting there in meditation, you're like, I don't want to be angry anymore, right? You think of a thought that makes you angry and you start to process how can you have that thought without those emotions that come up? And what can you do with those emotions once they come up, right? How can I help myself and my body actually work through these emotions instead of just suppressing them? And what can I focus on instead? So if I'm trying not to be as angry all the time or get easily angry, then what can I do instead? Okay, let's focus on joy. Let's focus on gratitude. So when you're meditating, you give yourself that space to be able to do that and you recognize what you need to do, you're aware of it, and you can put yourself in a position where you're more likely to take action and be able to focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on. So the more joyful and more gratitude thoughts. For me, meditation is a form of connecting me to my higher self and being more aware of who that is and who I want to be. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and I really hope that it helped you in some way and you learned something about meditating or maybe just inspired you to try a new form of meditation. Anyway, I will see you all in my next episode, which is my season finale for season 1 of the Mystic Space podcast. I am so excited. Thank you so much for listening and I'll see you all in my next one. Blessings.